Recording started.
Yep.
Let's do this. Good luck. That was lit.
No,
that was lit.
You a funny ass jip.
Did you get that part where it's coming with you?
Yeah, let me stop sharing this here. Hey everyone, welcome back to the 2021 Miami Science Fiction Film Festival Advanced Technology track, where we're doing a lot of virtual production, XR, augmented reality, VR, AI, blockchain, everything you could think of under the sun that's related to sci-fi filmmakers. So yeah, after this track, you guys are going to become world experts in advanced filmmaking techniques and how to monetize your films and really take your filmmaking up to the next level. So we have an amazing guest here today, Mr. Rob Baker. Rob, so why don't you give an introduction for yourself?
Yeah, so I kind of been involved with either bands or multimedia stuff or building shows for a very long time. So kind of like as an extension of the whole band endeavor, I was working on getting into music videos, put together my own little studio. So I've always wanted to kind of do something a little bit different that kind of cut through. So we started using the Unreal platform to facilitate working. Putting together virtual sets and filming, funny comedy in CG environments. And the Unreal platform is really, really awesome for that. It's you can get into it for free, and there's these great asset libraries. And if you can visualize a little short film or video in one of the environments that you can find in the marketplace, then the platform offers some really great tools to use to incorporate that into your filmmaking.
It's awesome. So Rob, let's fix your mic real quick. I know there's an issue with if you click on cam mic on your bottom of your screen.
Okay.
You click on audio.
Okay.
And then click on echo cancellation. You might have to turn off stereo audio to do that.
Echo cancellation is on.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay, that's fine. All right. Yeah, that's really great. I mean, so basically, let's talk about your journey as a filmmaker. And it looks like you got some pretty good green screen skills behind you. I mean, you and I have known each other for a couple of years now, so it'll be a little bit friendly conversation. So I know you started out doing regular green screen using other tools, and then you tried a lot of different ways to get into virtual production before you hit Unreal. So why don't you quickly take us through your history as a filmmaker?
Yeah, sure.
And how you get to this point.
Green screen. For those of you who know a little bit about green screen, the whole process of green screen can be really, really tricky to get what filmmakers call a quote unquote clean heat. you really need a lot of space to do good green screen. So when I first got into filmmaking, I immediately jumped to green screen because I thought, well, realistically, I can't afford or don't have the team to put together these location shots, shoots, and stuff like that. So I immediately went to green screen. And so the question quickly becomes like, okay, so now I can put my actors in front of a green screen. Okay, go. What's the idea? So then you're kind of like, well, what do we green screen actors in front of a picture of like a mountain or something? Right? You still have to have ideas. It has to be kind of consistent with your vision and your film story. But then it becomes like everything's been done before. So the first thing I did was I got a cast of kind of quirky, funny young guys, and we green screened it into a video game. So there's a lot of options there, and a lot of legal guidelines for what you can and can't do, and especially when it comes to delivery. The one thing that I wanted to do right off the bat was use a Black Ops, an old Black Ops Zombies map, and I was kind of set on that, but you can't make films utilizing the Activision content legally unless it falls under certain the categories of content. Like basically, Activision says that you have to release, if you're going to put out any of their content, if you're reusing their content on YouTube particularly, it has to be of some sort of tutorial or gameplay value. So basically what I did was we did this whole hour-long film, and I'm probably just going to show you guys a little clip of it. It was really funny. Ended up being about an hour-long movie, and the only way I could keep it on YouTube without getting flagged or whatever is to add like little bubbles with tips, with like gameplay tips and strategies, stuff like that. So that wasn't the original vision. So I was a little bummed about that. But then when I started kind of re-editing the film with those bubble tips and tutorial gameplay strategy kind of commentary, I thought, what, this is actually kind of an opportunity, because anytime you can add something to your, let's say your one-dimensional layer film, if that makes sense, it just became like an opportunity for them to give the viewers like that, just another thing to kind of entertain them. If it just so happens that the commentary and the actors and the dialogue and the storyline wasn't actually all that great, turn into it. So that was
let's share what you're talking about right now, and yeah, it's a really interesting concept of you making a video game movie, a feature-length video game movie. That's an amazing concept, and since we are a film festival, I think like we'll be able to share a lot of these clips that you normally wouldn't be able to share. So let's get this going.
I might add, I picked that game and that map because they already had an audience. So I thought,
Look at where we are!
that was just the whole. So yeah, that's the trailer. And, it was kind of interesting because that was like one of my first lengthy projects that I ever worked on because the initial idea was supposed to be just for fun, and we started working on the actors. They're really funny guys.
Yeah, well, the actors are. Yeah, why don't you go into that? They're some of the best voice actors, and basically your relationship with them. It's a good story.
Well, one of the main actors is my brother, my half brother, and he from a young age he wanted to be a rapper. He's actually an incredible rapper. I mean, he could get signed.
Obviously, the blonde guy's your brother, right? So.
Yeah. And his best friends, they're like he's in a pod, especially back then. And I'd hang out with him a lot, and I was always like, these guys are so funny. Like, if I was just rolling a camera, I'd do the YouTube thing or whatever. But I hate the idea of doing stuff that's kind of like what I call like family photo albums, stuff like candid, real reality kind of stuff. So I was thinking, well, if I was to capture their personalities, where could I place them with no budget in the green screen that would make showcasing their personalities just that much more interesting. So that was the whole idea with the Black Ops video game. And like I was saying, initially it was supposed to be just for fun, and I kind of quickly realized that it looks really cool. I was like, well, this, obviously this is not going to pass as some big budget project. That was never really the idea, but it looked cool enough for me to continue working on it. So, I worked on it off and on for like 2 years, and it ended up being a lot of work because as I got better utilizing, the platform that I was working on and the software and, just techniques and stuff, then I have to go back and like review scenes because I was like, oh, I know how to make that better, So
yeah, and then also I think you said your brother and his friend, the actors, were gamers to begin with.
Well, they are very much so. Yeah. So that kind of over the years. I've always been a gamer, but not on the level that gamers are nowadays. Now it's like arena, competition, right. Like Rocket League and stuff. So me being around them and also my little boy, I got an 11-year-old boy, he's awesome. That kind of exposed me. It kept me in the gamer world and YouTube loop. So I was always, watching the YouTubers, and just thinking, well, these guys are making a lot of money. So how could I do this?
So I think the concept you mentioned was, someone spills a Mountain Dew or something on an Xbox and they get trapped in the game, Jumanji style.
It's the plot of that movie. It's really quirky comedy, light on the surface kind of stuff, but it really was really good was just capturing personalities overall. But it ended up being really funny. There's we get a lot of viewers that drop out pretty quick, but those who kind of stick with it, there's certain points in the movie that are absolutely hilarious. I don't think I would have tried to kind of quote unquote sell it if it hadn't made me laugh. Like there's a few scenes where to this day I can watch them and I'll have tears roll.
Right. That's awesome. So let's jump right into your productions. I know in the background that's where you shot actually this movie directly right behind you in your studio. So
actually this is I used an even smaller green screen for that initial one. The green screen I have here at this studio is I think it's 19 by 11, which for green screen, that's really small. The way you're going to get a good feed is to have a lot of distance between the green screen and your actors. It's like 15 feet, and then that, in a small space, you'd have to use a wide angle lens. And what you get, even with a green screen this size, if you have a cast of 2 or 3 people and they put their arms out, their arms get cut off. So then what?
Yeah, your arm just got cut off just now.
Yeah, and generally, with really low budget productions, what will happen is the director or the camera people, we'll have the actors get closer to the green screen. And then what you get is you get the light bouncing off the screen and hitting the actors, and it's a green colored light. So it becomes a problem.
Right.
But all that distance really provides that you can light the actors separate from lighting the green screen.
So let's pretend my friends back here, they're actually cardboard cutouts. So
Okay.
let's say you're directing them, right? And they all want to be. So say my friends want to be in a Black Ops movie with your brother, right? How would you direct them if in a green screen? So if I know, like for example, right, you have to grab the footage from the video game from your Xbox. So you use a capture card, I believe, right? And then you have to do the green screen, or what's the actual process?
Well, as far as the backgrounds and whether or not you use a capture card or whatever, there's a lot of different ways to incorporate that kind of stuff, you really have to kind of just utilize whatever you have that kind of fits the job description. But I will say this, based on where on camera that's in front of you and the lens that it's using, which is obviously a wide angle lens. I could say.
Yeah, this is a GoPro. Yeah.
And let's say those were the cast behind you. Now, if those were actually live cast members and the green screen was at least 15, 20 feet behind them, you could already see that for that shot, you would need a green screen that was like 30 feet wide at least, So green screen becomes a really tricky endeavor when you have more than one actor, especially if they're going to have scenes where they choreograph scenes, like make a little fight scene and something like that. Your green screen real estate gets small really fast when you introduce a handful of actors into the scene.
Oh yeah, definitely. So the trailer itself, right? Several of the scenes, like when they're doing the rap battle, the machine gun. I forgot what we actually, but so how they're actually pointing in different directions, right? It seemed like they were actually in the actual virtual environment, not just all sitting behind a green screen. So how did you do that creative? Like, was it creative editing or was it different camera angles?
The answer is for those filmmakers who are not really working with the great budget and able to go from one studio to another, whatever. Each scene is kind of like its own puzzle, So I have scenes where the actors were too far apart, and no matter whether I liked it or not, the green screen behind was not big enough. So basically, it would just be two shots, kind of basically just edited together. So literally, the footage of the actors is actually two different layers that were edited together, and sometimes I'd have to do the audio. I'd have one of the actors sitting on the side talking to them so that they could respond to the video of the other shot that is to be, edited together. And then some of the backgrounds are static images, for one reason or another. And then in most cases, to provide that really cool, like kind of almost, let's say, kind of cartoonish, exaggerated depth of field. The background could be in a static shot that didn't have any panning or anything like that. The background can be several layers of static images that are basically cut out in words to kind of create like what I call for effect look. So if it were real video, then the depth of field would be variable. It would be a real world amount of depth of field to go.
So I think for the people who don't remember the trailer just now, I think there's one scene when someone pulls down a lever, and the lever, like there's some shimmering on the lever. So is that that's more like the effects you put in post production?
Yeah, those are basically just static components that were basically cut out and then animated. Really super animation.
So cut out on the After Effects side, or?
Well, I started off using Premiere and After, but another good tip for filmmakers is is, realistically, the majority of filmmakers that are kind of like on a small mom and pop shop level, to get into the entire Adobe suite, it's kind of like, just Adobe suite is kind of like 50 professions in one. So, if you have just a real small team, it becomes overkill very quickly. Most of the techniques and approaches that
I'm gonna put on just this one scene with the astronaut. I think maybe you can explain everything you're talking about in one scene, really, even your costume design and your props. So let me share this, and you can talk about it. I think that this one scene like almost encapsulates a couple years of your work, I believe. Pretty good stuff.
This was, that's the old movie. This is one of the first projects.
Oh yeah, definitely. We want to go through your history of how you got to Unreal. So I know, and not everyone starts out in Unreal.
Okay.
All right, I turned the sound off so you can talk over the talk over. So I know, like you in the trailer you have a lot of props, guns, and this I think you made by hand as well. You sewed this.
Yeah. So obviously if you want to pause there and talk about that previously.
Yeah.
All right. So in almost every one of these, there's a whole bunch of different layers. Now, even in that shot, one of the levers was cut out from basically a static.
These levers right here.
Yeah, but only that one point, like you guys can see. Okay, so that shot, it only required a static image. There was not going to be anything like that. So he's basically in front of a picture, as you would guess. But then in the picture, that the lever couldn't be manipulated unless I cut it out and then recreated the background behind it. Because if I cut it out and animated it, when it moved, it would show the lever that was originally there. So what you have to do is you have to cut it out, but then you have to kind of just recreate using like Photoshop, for instance, recreate what would be behind the lever. So then the lever would be removed entirely from the background. So then at that point you can animate it. So that's one element.
And the
astronaut costume, obviously the helmet is a motorcycle. And I just knew the motorcycle.
Oh wow! Actually, I never noticed that. It actually looks like a.
I should give it away. So then the rest of the stuff was kind of just like the hose I bought at Home Depot. I actually bought a whole bunch of other things to add to the astronaut costume, but since he's going to be kind of far back, it didn't need to be as detailed as I originally imagined it to be. Shoes are just shoes that kind of fit the look. I realized that the scene
and the shadow right there.
The shadow is actually it's another layering title because the drop shadow effect applied to an element. It's limited as far as where the shadow will be cast. So basically, it's just the shadow of the astronaut, but in most of the options of drop shadow effect, you can choose to include the original video layer with the drop shadow or not. So what I did is with that second layer of the astronaut, he has a drop shadow effect, but the actual video of the astronaut is turned off, leaving just the shadow. So then basically once the astronaut layer, the actual, like as I was saying, the real video layer was turned off and it left just a shadow, then you just move it into the appropriate place and kind of stretch it, stretch the width or the height or whatever to kind of match where you envision the shadow would be. So basically that shadow in my it's the way I envisioned that shot to make it more interesting. Was that shadow would kind of be like a good showcase part of that shot. And from there, the lightning and the smoke are just kind of cheesy elements. We got the smoke from
Yeah, the smoke looks pretty volumetric.
the smoke. A big part of making even cheesy little scenes like this, or I should say low budget, not cheesy, low budget. But a big part of putting together effects like this is really just being picky. Because, for instance, that smoke is a really good example of that. That smoke is not like an expensive, flashy effect or anything. There's thousands of really I should say common effects like that are available even on YouTube. But it's a matter of being picky, because when I'm searching for a particular effect that fits my vision of a scene, it's hard. They're hard to find. So to find an effect like that, for example, I would spend like an hour, sometimes 2 hours, going through every possible smoke effect that I could find, free on YouTube. There's libraries that you can buy, but those libraries they're only what they are. So you could spend $100 on a package of space smoke effects, and you still might not have the one that really fits your vision of what you think the work would seem.
So say you got a YouTube smoke effect, would you add that as a transparency or a foreground to the astronaut, or how would?
Well, a lot of those effects are green screen effects. So the green is behind them. Now, the problem becomes, usually the problem if you want to say village of anything like YouTube, now that smoke, there's two things that kind of require some special love, some little TLC. Usually resolution on YouTube is awful, but for smoke effects, smoke is slow. So when you initially green screen a smoke effect and do a thing like that, it'll be blocky and pixelated. Well, so all you do is add a nice blur to it, and then that pixelated look disappears as a smoke effect. So a lot of the effects and a lot of the kind of things that you would need to do to get like a low budget endeavor together really just requires a little bit of finessing. Like every turn you make is in every scene, every shot, every background is really just a matter of figuring out puzzles that will just make that one shot or that one effect actually work. And if you can't get it to work, then a lot of times you just have to end up changing the scene or the environment to keep the production moving forward.
Yeah, I can for people in the audience, I can definitely attest to the fact that Rob is a perfectionist, like a real, it has a lot of integrity as a filmmaker. Like plenty of times, I felt like things were perfect and he did not. Kudos to him. So all these little things that he's explained to me, I never even noticed before, even though I've seen this trailer like 1,000 times. So.
Where it really is interesting, I'll tell you guys like where I would like to go, and you never know what life has in store for you, but where I would like to go is to get more into the Unreal platform, because when I was making this film, I wasn't using any fancy platforms, and I was learning as I went along.
Which platform? You kind of broke up.
It was really just a combination between Premiere Pro, Photoshop, and what else? Almost everything was done in those two programs.
Yeah, actually, so you have a lot of other clips. So let's showcase your other work, your newer work too, and you can explain how you progressed as a filmmaker and your technology.
Yeah, the first trailer that you showed was a good example of what Unreal kind of helped as far as like different camera angles, blurs, animation, CG environment.
So let's share that again then. Just It's the movie trailer, Black Ops zombie movie.
No, not Black Ops. It would be that first trailer, the Zombie Fried Chicken show trailer.
Stuck in a video game.
Yes,
All right, let me share that.
stuck in the video. Kind of says it all.
All right, let's replay a little bit of this. I'll turn the volume off so you can talk.
So the first thing to know is every element, every CG element in our 5-part series, everyone, the zombie, the background, the trash, those were all purchased in the Unreal library. And you're welcome, Unreal. All these assets are pretty cheap, you know, like in this video, there's probably 5 different CG packages that I purchased, all ranging, you know, probably between $30 and $70. Like, say, for instance, like that prison right there, that entire prison, all of that, everything there was like $30. Now, the great thing about Unreal is that, you know, just utilizing, you know, say, virtual cameras and stuff like that, you know, which is 95% of what, you know, I was utilizing to get the shots in each one of these scenes, is just scratching the surface. Unreal has a platform that is, you know, has been molded to cater towards filmmakers. That is so advanced that Hollywood you could make big budget films utilizing really high end CG. Like, I mean, if you imagine like sci-fi, like a big sci-fi, Unreal can do all of that. The thing is that it just depends on what you're doing. Like, I don't want to utilize really high-end CG, because then anything that I'd be doing would have a feel like it was competing with some of the big budget films that people are kind of like already accustomed to. You know?
Yeah, you're right.
So,
you lose your core video gamer audience. It wouldn't be indie anymore.
Yeah. You know, like I actually did not want the best CG environments. I wanted stuff that looked a little bit more cartoonish, because I didn't want to interject anything out there that kind of would make it feel like I was trying to be like trying to compete with Hollywood. I just wanted to do quirky, candid, comedy kind of stuff. But the one thing that is most interesting to me, that the Unreal platform is really good for when it comes to filmmaking on that level, is kind of like a more mixed reality production approach. So the series The Mandalorian was one of the first big productions where they had these massive LED screens that had the already edited CG environments, like actually there. And if you imagine the LED screen that's really super high resolution, and then the actors in front of that screen, and then the cameramen with their cameras, handheld shots. And now, as they move their camera, the CG environment in the background will move according to what the camera is doing. The actors would, the camera would. So Mandalorian was one of the first big films where a team of these brilliant guys came up with the concept, put it together, and Mandalorian was the first one to really showcase that technology. So if you guys are understanding what I'm saying, the Unreal platform has that technology that's just there to be utilized. You can use the Unreal platform for these projects for free. You can download all this stuff, and to improve upon the shots, you might need more or less equipment. Not really expensive stuff, but it just depends on how you go. But anyways, so the Unreal platform, you can download and start using that to facilitate your filmmaking methods for free. And now the catch is, like most other game engines, if you start to make money beyond a certain threshold, then you have to start a percentage of your profits to Unreal, basically. So with Unreal, I believe it's maybe I think it's over like $1,000.
No, it's actually it's almost non-existent now because it's like $1 million. Actually, for filmmakers, it's definitely non-existent. It's for game developers. You would pay something over $1 million, but for filmmakers, as right now, as far as I know, there's no licensing. Yeah.
I know for most platforms that operate that way, it's usually over. It profits over 3,000, over 5,000, something around.
Yeah, they changed that. Now it's like $1 million or something.
Oh, that's good.
But that's for games. But for movies, it's pretty much free right now. In fact, we're gonna have Brian Pohl on soon. So he's the head of education, and he does all their fellowships, and they just launched their new studio in LA. So he's gonna talk about that directly. So
yeah. So one thing I'll just add real quick, it's kind of like a big thing, is
okay. We also, I know you have one more clip also you sent. We can play that as well, the Casey Turner clip.
Oh yeah, well that's that was a music video. Casey Turner is a pretty awesome guy. I used to play drums for him actually in Cali. I played drums for him for like 3 years. We used to play out like over San Diego mostly. But he's a really talented musician. He's become an international guy. He travels the world.
Sure. Let me pull that up so people can see it. Do you want the sound or not? No sound on this one.
It doesn't really matter. I mean, if people want to hear his music, I would check out Casey Turner Permanent Vacation. That's a really awesome song. It's my favorite song he's ever written. And I played drums for him. So Permanent Vacation is amazing. This video is more about the. I mean, it's just music is.
Let me turn it down a little bit. I recognize that costume.
Oh yeah.
Casey, is that you?
So this is a whole big sci-fi thing. So I had to
Help me, Casey Turner.
very tediously build a sci-fi set, and yeah.
So how did you actually build the sci-fi set and then get and create this whole virtual environment?
Well, and there's the briefcase stage. I just built from scratch. That was. And I used to actually work in production.
That's awesome, man. So right there, like, how did this the Help Me Obi-Wan? You got the Help Me Obi-Wan scene right here.
Yeah, most of the layers in the background were static images.
Like this right here. That could be the R2-D2 Help Me Obi Princess
Yeah.
Leia.
Okay, so that set picture is really just 2 layers. Actually, I'm sorry, 3. It's just the little Casey is just taking green screen over that stage, and obviously I had to place the camera up high, and record him from a higher position, when I was imagining that he would be on that stage. So a lot of the times I would start with the background image, and then I'd film the actor, and then obviously put the briefcase on like a little table and table should be painted green, make it a little easier. But then after I put together that initial shot, only then will I know the right camera angle to film the second Casey Turner so that he matches, so that his feet matches the stage. So it's how you put it together. In many cases, becomes the order of operations. But I will say this: that shot was particularly tricky because you have the video going on the LED screen on the miniature stage as well. See that video there? That made that shot pretty tricky. And then, also when it comes to a shot that's beginning like that poses a lot of real challenges that really just end up being very time-consuming. Most of the methods used in all this stuff aren't really technically difficult. It really comes down to a lot of basic techniques but a lot of time getting them right, getting them to kind of fit together correctly, in terms of everything from blur to contrast to brightness, the animation, like that. That scene, I didn't really like the way that one came out, but Casey did. These are just toys, obviously, and they were kind of empty. It's supposed to be almost kind of like your SpongeBob SquarePants kind of quirky, space kind of thing. Um, but like I was saying, this kind of stuff, like
Yeah, I like how the spaceship occluded the astronaut, so the astronaut got behind the spaceship, made it more.
yeah, just little things like that. It's kind of like
So
YouTube.
was that like a string type thing, or is it like a toy and a string?
No, that was actually that is actually a real costume, and again, like that was it wasn't any costume. It was a costume that was specifically picked because it didn't have too much detail. There's astronaut costumes.
Like that astronaut guy, is that a toy or is that someone?
No,
an
that
actor?
was Casey. Casey was in
Oh,
that.
okay, so he's an actor. Okay. Oh, it's Casey. Oh, cool.
Yeah, Casey's actually in that costume. And it was, if you guys have ever seen those, they actually have little miniature fans built into the leg. And it blows and fills up the costume with air. I saw a couple people dancing in those at this like rave party, and I thought it was just amazing. And I was like, that is the coolest thing in the world. So when we were making this movie, I remembered about those kind of costumes. But the important thing to know is that that costume, I was looking online for a costume that would work for that, and there's 1,000 astronaut costumes that could have been picked from. You can actually even rent real astronaut costumes from outsourcing in LA. That's you can find real astronaut costumes in LA, and they'll ship them to you for like a week. But the rentals are expensive. So initially I was like, "Wow, we need a real astronaut costume, right?"
I mean, we got NASA here in Florida. Why do we got to go to LA?
Well, it's a matter of availability,
Yeah, that's right.
It's not easy to get an astronaut costume. But so the thing is I ended up going that direction specifically because that costume did not have a lot of detail. Because if it had too much detail, it wouldn't really kind of fit the whole, vibe, the whole concept of the quirky, kind of, how should I describe it? I just like the theme of that song, or the theme of the video. So that was perfect because it almost looks like a cartoon, and that was perfect. And in practice, you didn't even realize it was a real person, and that was because of the whole style of the costume.
Well, it's because you also like told me you were using toys, so I was already just the last thing I heard from you was the toys. That's why.
I still have those toys. I kept them just kind of like a souvenirs.
So I think it's really interesting. You develop your own style over the years, and you can definitely see how it's developed too from your music. I think the music was the Casey music video, the first production that you showed today. Was that as far as your timeline of your craft, or
the Black Ops Zombie movie was the first. I mean, I went to very small media schools, and we kind of did little projects and stuff like that.
Yeah. Let's talk about your actual background. Probably should have done this first.
I mean, oh man, it's been such a So I was kind of always an artist at heart. I kind of dabbled with everything from sculpting to drawing, to getting into Photoshop, and I was metercore. And I worked in production for 17 years. So that was
you're in a band, right, out in Cali?
Yeah, I played in, I don't even know how many bands, and I'm working on music right now, actually, like my own stuff. But I have a whole catalog of music that from various artists that I have known over the years that is kind of like on the bucket list. Because a lot of the material is really incredible material, original material some from artists that are professional, that are out in the world doing their thing, like Casey Turner. But I worked with a lot of artists that were, your typical, starving artist, musician type who writes music, and they're amazing, but that's as far as it goes. So I want to read a lot of these old lines of material, and that's like the drum sets in the background. That's partially to facilitate, working on a lot of these projects. But I worked in production for 17 years. So I worked on shows, every type of show you can imagine. As a freelancer, freelancers have worked every kind of show that you could ever imagine. Everything from huge shows to small shows to corporate conferences to theater to film to whatever. So I got a really good overview of the whole process of getting a show together, put together, and off. Like the show must go on. We have 10 minutes. If there's any issues, you have to figure them out real quick. So over the years, I just kind of felt like, that's a never-ending thing, to work on everybody else's stuff. And I always kind of wanted my own studio to kind of do creative. And, so that's where I am. My studio is really up and running. I'm still working on personal projects, stuff like that, kind of trying to hone in my own style. But Unreal, I see Unreal as a big part of everything that I'm going to want to do in the future.
So we also, this track is also for AI and other advanced technology. And you and I first met originally at an AI type conference where you're the production guy for this AI conference.
Yeah, a little theater.
Yeah, a lot of people came from France to South Florida. So yeah, it seems like you're always into something new and interesting. Maybe serendipitously you get involved in these technologies. So what are you really excited about? I know there's a lot of things going on with metahumans and LED light stages, and and think about it as like me coming from an engineer first, and you coming from a practical production point of view first. We can both see the same elephant, right, but feel different parts of it. So what's really exciting to you from your background?
Well, outside of the music that I'm working on now and the stuff that I will be working on shortly, as far as the video world goes, technology and the whole general progression of competitive nature of the market out there, it's gotten to a point where we have all the tools that you could ever need, you could ever want. A good example of that is HitFilm is what I'm using now to edit. The HitFilm is great. It's cheap. It's really fantastic, intuitive, but it's a video editor and a compositor, for special effects, under the same umbrella. So instead of working in Premiere and After Effects, which are kind of like overkill, for a lot of basic effects that a lot of guys would need. HitFilm is very easy to use. It does all of that. It's very easy software to use. That's a great example of the idea that all the tools in the world are available to filmmakers at a pretty low cost these days. So that's why, you get say for instance, there's so much content on platforms like Netflix now. So many films. They multiply, It's like back in the day, there's like a handful of sci-fi films that were like, now it's like there's 1,000 of them, and you just don't even know what to watch because you're like, well, it's just as good as anything, But anyways, my vision of where I want to go really caters more towards like candid humor, because like on YouTube, you see like a younger generation of people that just watch YouTube and nothing else. And there's a reason for that, because a lot of that quirky, crazy, candid YouTube, silly stuff, it's really entertaining. I mean, you have like some of the most viewed content in the world and stuff that was filmed on an iPhone of a cat that, runs into a glass wall or something like that. And it's funny, right? So the whole idea behind Unreal was to kind of figure out a production approach that was really easy, really cheap, that just added just a little something behind a candid, real world sort of category of content. So my vision was to utilize Unreal to be able to make an enormous amount of content very quickly, very efficiently, and with just a few people, so that we could focus on actors and dialogue and commentary that kind of appeal towards that younger generation that has zero attention span. I mean, it's like, if you're going to entertain the YouTube audience, I mean, those millions of people all around the world, like the younger generation, you're going to have to provide them with funny stuff, funny commentary, quirky, funny acting, whether it's candid or actually like all rehearsed prior. And it's going to have to be like joke after joke. I mean, it's going to have to be content like bam, 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 bam. So, the younger generations, they just don't have the patience for, kind of like traditional, traditional film, like a traditional film approach, But I'm just talking about kind of category, if you can compare
that's really interesting take. So just last question, how would you recommend people who are just starting out, like maybe they have basic skills about video editing, or they're basically traditional filmmakers. What's the first thing they can do to get started in virtual production?
Well, you have to know that a huge part of it is not video. So, if you are good with programs like Photoshop, with programs that utilize bitmap editing, imagery, stuff like that, or the cater, that's a big thing. That's a big thing, So, like, I'd say in a lot of the scenes that you guys watch, just these little demos, I'd say half of those scenes were the only video was what was recorded of the actors doing things. The rest was not even video. It was static image. So the thing is if you can get into that and simply utilize very basic, cut out images, layer them on top of each other, and then in some cases pan them, like very slow, like editing, animation, where elements are going from one point to move very slowly, and then blur certain elements, right? I think the point is that whether it's video or static imagery, even green technique, it's not the technology that should slow you down, because the vast majority of techniques even used in more comprehensive productions are still relatively basic. But it takes somebody with artistic vision to take those basic components and put them together and make them look like they belong together and incorporate them into the scene that kind of maintains like a cohesive flow. You wouldn't want your background to be so busy that it would take away too much attention from your actual foreground. So it's kind of like don't be afraid of the technology, and use all the basics to kind of create a scene, and then kind of just trust your instinct. At some point, I think you got to kind of stop thinking too technically and kind of watch it as if you were an audience and just stumbled across it. Hey, does that feel right? Does it flow? The way that it's all edited together. You really kind of trust. You really need to trust how it makes you feel, and then then if you trust your instinct on that, then it'll kind of push you in a certain direction as far as like what the next challenge is. It'll kind of show you the way. That makes sense.
That's awesome, Rob. So we're getting to the end of this session. How can people follow you on social or we're gonna have a live Q&A later on at the festival, but people who don't go to Q&A.
I would definitely appreciate it if you guys check out our channel on YouTube. It's called the Zombie Fried Chicken Show, and it's kind of a mix of our stuff. But that's an easy way to get a hold of us because if anybody wants to reach out, YouTube channels have I think it's about the channel, like on the home page of the channel. There's a button that says about. And then you click on that, you can contact the artist, whoever is running the channel.
All right, so do a search for Zombie Fried Chicken Show. All right.
Yeah, I will say this: the channel has.
We'll put a link underneath the on the film festival platform. I'll
Oh
put
yeah,
a
that's
direct
cool.
link there
Yeah,
as
I
well.
really appreciate that.
Yeah.
I will say this: we did some political satire on the channel. It's totally different feel, and it was just because of the whole crazy nature of the political atmosphere over the last few years, especially through the election. So we did a bunch of rap battles between Biden and Trump that turned out to be really funny. And my brother, as I mentioned, he was a rapper. He does voice impersonation, and he's
really good.
His voice impersonations of Trump and Biden and Obama and Snoop Dogg, they were hilarious. They were really funny.
It's awesome.
So you guys can check that out on our channel.
All right, Rob. Cool. Well, thanks for joining us and
thank
for
you so much.
dropping all this knowledge on us.
It's good to see you, man.
You as well.
Yeah, thanks for being on. Okay, all right. Have fun, everybody, and check out Unreal. Check out Unreal. And when you check out platforms like that, if you were just to open it up and start poking around, it would be pretty intimidating. But there's tutorials on YouTube for everything. So check out some tutorials on Unreal filmmaking, mixed reality. You'll probably find some really cool stuff to check out.
All right, great.